Good evening and welcome to another installment of the MBtv Rui Cunha Foundation Debate Series, which brings us together here at Rui Cunha Foundation to talk about issues related to the city's current affairs, business development, and today we will be talking about culture, about creative and cultural industries. Our topic, CreActivity, taking creative and cultural industries to the next level. And to shed light onto the issue, we are joined by a distinguished panel of guest speakers, expert artists, well-seasoned citizens who have been contributing to the development of cultural and creative industries in Macau over the years, I would even say over the decades, we can say. So let me start by, of course, welcome all of you here at Rui Cunha Foundation. Those of you following us live on Facebook, I would like to thank Rui Cunha Foundation for bringing us here for another fruitful, surely, discussion and roundtable that we've been holding in cooperation with Macau Business MBtv Debate Series. So we are here and we are joined by, as I was saying, a distinguished panel of guest speakers. We have with us Carlos Marreiros, President of Albergue SCM and of ALBcreativeLAB. Carlos Marreiros is an award-winning architect, urban planner, designer, artist. Is also the founder and chairman of Marreiros Architectural Atelier, and also a member of a number of institutions, cultural associations, entities with decades-long experience and expertise on this industry and on this sector. We are also joined by Alice Cox. She's on my right. She's the president of Art for All Society, multifaceted artist, filmmaker, lecturer, art curator, teacher, art writer. She's the president of Art for All Society. Ricardo Pinto is the director of the Script Road Macau Literary Festival, a veteran journalist, a well-seasoned publisher, and director of Portuguese language newspaper Ponto Final, and also himself an author, a writer who has been contributing to the city over the decades. And joining us shortly will also be Agnes Lam, associate professor at the Department of Communication of the University of Macau and director of the Center for Macau Studies at the University of Macau. And also, she's been deeply involved in a number of entities, associations, and she's also been embracing the development of the city's cultural and creative industry sector. So let's start by talking about the issue. It's more than a buzzword. I mean, it's been around, namely over the past 2 decades, cultural and creative industries. It's emerging as a sort of pillar for diversification, for modernization. A lot of talk about how to nurture talent, how to enhance innovation through creative and cultural industries, how to unlock the potential of this sector. There's so much on our plate, and I would like to ask Carlos Marreiros to have the first take on this matter. Carlos, you've been, as I was saying, involved, I have to say, over the past decades, not only years, as an artist. Oh, no, I'm trying, it's an euphemism, because you've been really involved, as I was saying, in a number of entities. And I'd like you to let's look at things in perspective. Let's look at things in perspective concerning the last 2 decades or so. This issue, when did the issue and the matter of creative and cultural industries was brought onto the agenda here in Macau? And tell us about your involvement in this, of course, as an artist yourself, but of course, as a citizen and as a member of some institutions, councils, and funds that have been playing a key role here.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm very pleased to be here sharing some ideas, some information I have been collecting these decades, as Ricardo Matias just referred. He was calling me old man, but it doesn't matter. I'm happy because my heart is 16.
Yes.
Anyway, it's really a pleasure in a rainy day to start by saying that who started this was Chief Executive Edmund Ho, because it was a desire of the main government, central government, as a response to the non-gaming possibility of industry and profitability. You know, it's very difficult. If you compare the figures generated by entertainment industry and other economical active, even considering construction, civil construction plays a very important part. So I prepare just a few notes to frame up for everybody to understand what we are talking about. First phase, a lot of goodwill, few studies, some uncertainty. However, as it was a central government desire for Macau, a strong intention, it was very well accepted. But the guy who did give his face and his dedication was not the Secretary of Culture, but was the Chief Executive itself, Edmund Ho. We were in the period of 2007 to 2009. Remember, everybody was saying that the gringo are coming, Americans are coming, but it starts when China Sands building was finished in 2004, I think, and there was an invasion, isn't it? If I'm wrong, please correct me. 2004.
2004, the first Sands casino.
The first Sands China casino, close to the terminal. So that moment, people realized Macau was changing. The money was coming to Macau. So people thought about possibilities of industries. You know, in Macau, people doesn't risk a lot. If you have very profitable industries and business to do, namely real estate, commerce, restaurant, small family business for gastronomy, tashkas, right? To higher level of construction, real estate speculation or others, without much risk and highly profitable in a short period of time, why investing in something so risky, so new as creative industries or cultural industries? They are more or less the same, but okay, just to be easy and to be understandable, I use creative and cultural, because Macau follow Chinese system is more cultural industries. Normally, Europe follow the British standard, which is creative industry. I think it was forged by Tony Blair when he was Prime Minister of UK. So this was the first period, 2007, 3 years more or less after the first impression of now Macau woke up. Macau won the race to international gaming operator. So the second phase, we were all waiting for you.
Yes, Agnes Lam is joining us. No worries.
Hello, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
you, welcome.
Be a
Thank
gentleman.
You. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Agnes.
So Carlos is in 2009 now, so we're
I'm
still...
the second phase now.
Yes.
So the second phase, which corresponds to the second term of Chief Executive Chui Say-on, being Secretary for Culture, Alexis Tam, okay? You remember the first term, Dr. Alexis Tam Chun-Weng, he was the chief cabinet. He was not a secretary. The second term, he was secretary. But it was during the time of Mr. Zheng Yu, remember the Secretary for Culture, Tourism and Social Affairs, the creation of the so-called, in that moment, FIC,
Cultural Industries Fund.
But even... No, there was a committee. It's not a fund. The committee is earlier, and it was the Consultative Council or Committee for Cultural Industries. I was member of that too. Yes, I remember. Conselho Consultivo das Indústrias Culturais.
Creative Industries Consultative Committee, something.
Eu costumava dizer que era os conselhos concordativos da
You used to say,
não é?
I don't know how to translate this one.
Okay.
Agreeing council. Yes. But then
in that time, we have much, coming back to Mr. Alexis Tam time, we have study visits, field trips, more deeper studies, and so on. And this corresponds also to a quite mature level reached by People's Republic of China cultural industries. Okay? They start much earlier than us. And I think the world follow Tony Blair. I forgot the name of the minister. He had a minister for creative industries. Remember? There was a ministry, and a British government of that time paid a lot of attention, and it was so successful, creating cultural cities and so on, that it spread around the world, reaching Asia quite fast. And China was starting in that moment too. But during FIC time, China was very mature already. So, to finish this, the creation of Fund for Cultural Industry was in October 2013, during the Secretary Zheng Yu. But the phase of this new phase, the second phase, was Alexis Tam, was not Choi Say-on, as before was the chief executive himself, Edmund Ho. So this lasts from 2013 to 2019. The third phase and the last begins shortly after until today. Then we will discuss
and we had a 3-year pandemic that obviously took a toll on a number of activities, and certainly culture was surely dealt a heavy blow. And I'd like to bring Alice into the conversation.
But may I,
if you, yeah, please.
May I finish with
please.
this note? And it's only 30 seconds. I couldn't find, with accountability, a good number of the money spent in cultural industries. But we discover a disclosure of the result of audit report on the inspection of financial support carried out by the Cultural Industries Fund, and source was Commissioner of Audit, so Mr. Hoving-on, okay? So this is completely, how can I say? Accurate. Yeah. Accurate because it is of May 12, 2022, 4 p.m., 4 p.m. And 6 minutes. This is okay. So the money spent...
And 32 seconds.
Yes, spent from October 2013 to June 2020. The support granted by FIC was 517,858,770. Okay, roughly 580 million MOP. Okay, in 7 years, 8 years, with a number of 316 activities. It means an average of 163,000 for each activity. So this is all I have to do.
No, it's
May
thank
I go,
you.
go
No,
on
no,
now?
no,
Not yet?
not yet.
Oh.
No, we have a lot to talk about. So we laid the foundation. Thank you, Carlos. It gave us a perspective on facts, on framing the conversation regarding what has been done over the past almost 20 years, about 20 years, since right after the establishment of the SAR, highlighting the role of some leaders, namely the first chief executive, Edmund Hall, and also the role played, highlighting the role played by Alexis Tam as Secretary for Social Affairs and Culture, and also the money that has been allocated. Carlos Marreiros, Alice, was talking about looking at the different periods, like a first one, and then a second one that ended in around 2019, 2020, and then we had the pandemic. Tell us about where we are now. I mean, it was tough. I guess we managed to survive, right? All of us were here. But where are we standing now in terms of the industry? And if you want to have to say something about when we're talking about cultural and creative industries, in case some people may not be so clear about the concept, if you want to also shed light onto this. Thank you.
Okay. So the question is about where we are now in terms of cultural and creative industry. Cultural and creative industry, in my understanding and according to Wikipedia, that it's the industry that has to do with creativity and culture. It's really general like that. So, but in terms of people who work in the creative and cultural industry, it is quite wide. Even security guards who works in related works can be considered as a creative industry worker. So me, myself, being one of them, working as an artist, as a curator, as an art teacher, writers, and etc. In the past 16 years since I came back from Europe, actually, from France and Tibet, and then here in Macau, it was during the time, it was the first phase that Carlos was talking about, when we started to really see Macau changing, right? And indeed, we are in the third phase now. After Alexis Tam's attempt to create a more vibrant creative industry by making, for example, right now is happening, the Art Macau Biennale was started by Alexis Tam. So, and then the pandemic. And the Macau government changed. Also in 2020, when the new government was in office. And the pandemic, actually for the 3 years of pandemic, we more or less survived, of course. That was the only thing we thought about. But I think the real impact of that 3 years really was felt this year. Actually, in 2023, I think it's a very critical year where we started to really feel, okay, the 3 years, what we have lost in terms of budget, money, prospects, and everything we have to really...
People that meanwhile left the city, right?
Yes, many left the city already, actually, during the pandemic, and then also in terms of budget planning, what is for the future. I think the 3 years really shocked us to our bones, and now we really have to tighten up everything to see what we can do. So the first half of the year, I see it as a very severe, actually, because that's where we really felt the lack of jobs, the lack of budgets and everything, and then immediately we have to find new ways. But at the same time, as we see in Macau, the government policy has a very obvious change this year in terms of the cultural industry, because right after the commission of the casino, they already started to push the artists, the local art sector to work with the casinos. At the same time, they cut our budget, really with a big cut. So this is like, okay, we're in the middle. We are between the shock and what we can do about it in the coming near future.
Just think you brought into the conversation something that is really relevant in the current juncture, which is on the one hand, public funding has been slashed, right? This is not coming back to the pre-COVID period, right?
No, not at all, not at all. Actually, we see a gradual cuts, but this year it was drastic. It was, for example, it was from pre-COVID would be 100, and then during COVID, the 3 years would be 80, and then now we are at 40 in 3 years' time.
So how to make it up for at least to get back to 80? So the private sector and the gaming operators, of course, have been calling up to, and actually are required to play an important role here, right?
Yes, absolutely. And well, for me, I think the sword is double-sided in a way that, yes, of course, if the private sector, the industries can work together with the art sector, it would be a very good opportunity, because we need resources and all this. And the artists, what we lack, we lack money, for sure. We don't lack the creativity. So if we effectively to combine creative and industry together, maybe that is, it sounds very sensible, right? But as you mentioned just now, actually, there are industries without culture and the culture without industry. So the idea now is really to combine them together. I think it's a big challenge, but a very exciting but challenging at the same time.
Thank you, Alice. We will revisit in a while the issue of the role of the private sector, and of course, namely of the gaming concessionaires. Ricardo, of course, I invite you to follow up on the conversation, but talking about the Script Road, the literary festival. This year we have the 12th edition. You managed to keep it always running, even during the hard time of the pandemic. Tell me about the value that is created by something like a literary festival and the work that has been carried out over the years, and of course, where we stand here. The festival has just been concluded a few days ago, so you may have something to share as well. Thank you.
Well, the festival, of course, the main goal of the festival is to promote literature and writing and reading in Macau, trying to bring together different communities, having here a lot of guests from different countries. This time we had from Brazil, Portugal, Angola, UK, of course, Macau, Hong Kong, many cities in China. So the idea is to create an event as vibrant as possible and encouraging people to attend all our several events inside the festival, among them film screenings and concerts, not only talks, and encourage people also to write more, read more, and write more about Macau. For the first time since 2020, we had the opportunity to have some guests from abroad for the first time, and I think we are going to be able next year to go back to the publication of anthologies of short stories and poems of our guests, which was one of the main fruits of our event. It's a legacy of the festival. We have already 7 volumes of those writings in 3 languages, and we hope to be able to do it again. But as Alice was saying, we are now in a moment that we have our budgets going drastically down, and at the same time we are struggling with the lack of human resources of people. There was a lot of people that left. For you to have an idea, when we had the concert last Saturday, at the same time there were maybe 5 or 6 other concerts in town. And until the very last minute, we were not finding lighting technicians. So it was really a very, very complicated situation, because we could not find the technicians. They were all busy with other concerts, with other events, And a number of them that were used to live in Macau, working here and so on, are not here anymore. I hope that if the government, if people are really willing to develop the sector and so on, I think that the doors have to be opened again for people to come back and to work here. Of course, we also have to invest much more in schools, information in Macau University, Polytechnic, and all that. I think we have been talking about this all these years. It's not happening at the pace that was desirable. But yes, I think we are in a moment that it's a kind of hangover of the pandemic, because you know, as like in 2021, we were okay. The pandemic is about to be finished, and next year it's going to be better, and this is always being postponed. And even now, when you know, things are apparently going back to normal in terms of economic development and so on, we are still struggling, and most likely even more this year than the previous years.
Thank you, Ricardo. Agnes, welcome.
Yeah.
You've been involved at different levels in terms of regarding the development of culture and creative industries. Tell us about your take on where we are and the direction that you see in terms of both like public policy direction on this field, and also how do you see these conversations regarding financial resources, human resources, and broader strategy for the sector?
Okay, so I want to apologize first that I'm late, so I tried to come early.
We thank you for making the effort.
Okay,
thank you.
okay, so traffic jam, everyone knows. And so actually, because I kind of heard Gareth said a bit about the history, and because I was also involved.
Yeah, please,
and so
go
maybe
ahead.
I can also share with you some of, especially the US Macau, and then we did a lot of research on that, actually, cultural industry. So if you still remember, during the very first few years of Edmund Ho's kind of time, I think he kind of constantly, regularly meeting with some scholar, local scholar. So at that time there were 19 people. Okay, so I was one of them. So actually, yeah, I was one of them. So the media addressed that as the 19 scholars, something like that. So every time before he made the policy address, he would meet with us. And so we will tell him, okay, what we think that should be addressed in the policy. So later he made that kind of meeting more frequent. Originally it's like once per year, then later it's like twice per year, later it's like 3 times per year. So around, I think, 2005 or 6, and so that, because actually I think I kind of communicate with him quite early, around 2001 actually. After a trip that I was in, I went to US for a kind of land trip. And so there was, I went to one place named Santa Fe. I don't know if you've been there. So it's a very nice city, small town in the middle of the desert. And so they have a lot of local artists and then Indian people. And so I was there like 1 week, and the thing was hosted by their IC, okay. So it's their IC, the director. And so he told me the whole story, how they built that city in the middle of the desert, how they helped actually it's the indigenous, the Indiana, how to help them to create their own brand of jewelry, so and or kind of art pieces. And so everyone, they have their own kind of brand signature, everything. And then they have a lot of art gallery. And so the city council or their IC, they will provide free wine drink every Friday at the city center. Okay. And so around the city center, so there was a kind of market for the local industries and other artists from the whole world. They can sell their product like the art fair that we have. And then they have like maybe at least 20 galleries around the city center. And so people can go there and get a drink and kind of walk around, go inside the gallery. And so they told me that it took them like 10 years. Santa Fe became the 3rd art product kind of center in the world. So the first one was New York, there was London, okay, then it was Santa Fe. I was like, wow, so we can do something like that. And then when I was visiting the gallery, I ran into a painter, an artist from America, who visited Macau 2 years ago. And then we met in one of the professor's homes with a party. And so I said, and then I found that when I met him in Macau, I knew that he was an artist, but I never knew that his art piece was so expensive. He was selling kind of painting like 80,000 US, and said, wow. And then so, okay, that was someone we met in Macau, and then we didn't really respect him. We didn't know who he was. So I was like, hey, hi. And then actually I found, oh, his work worth, some money, okay, or some pennies. And then when I came back, I think I started to write about all those experiences in newspaper. Then the government officials, people from IC at that time, they start to talk to me. And so I said, maybe you can start to write a report for the government. So then I wrote that report. And then I also kind of submit to the Edmund at that time, kind of very small report about what we can do it. And actually they kind of accept it and saying that, okay, let's do something. So, but later they create the, what does it call, not project, but the phone talk. So then they start to do something. And so, contagious chat, phone talk. They create that. And then later they also, and a few years later, when we have that kind of scholar talk, and it was also at the time, because I kind of mix up who said that particularly, but it was like Edmund Hall might think that, okay, maybe we should really think about the cultural industry. And so then we had the second report. And so to talk about actually gastronomy, so food, and we thought Portuguese food should be promoted. And so the restaurant in Macau should be promoted, and we need to find out all those stories. So actually it was in 2007, that report I remember, because very soon, the government start to contact the so another association.
Gastronomy,
Gastronomy,
right. So the other one. So contact them and ask them to work with the restaurant. And so then they start to have the renovation programs. Then they start that. So actually, and the first thing Edmund Hall did was that he, in 2008 or 9, he took the delegation, 19 of us, and then we went to China with him. And so we look at maybe that's maybe what Gareth was saying. So we look at how in Zhongshan, how they turned the lotus garden into some kind of project. So we look at all kind of projects. And so I think that he wanted to do something. And so then I think I was the one who tried to draft that report. So actually we start from that very, like 20 years ago already, right? Yeah. And so now I think the rest of the story was kind of told already. And so I think in Macau, it took us 2 decades for more people to understand what is cultural industry. I was telling them what we did, but I can tell you at that time, whenever we submit a report, we try to explain what's the cultural industry. People realize that that's fake. Nothing, no industry can be called cultural. So actually we dig out a lot of examples, like what say in England, how they did it, and how they did in also Korea. So we kind of come up with a lot of examples to try to explain. And I think the time when Alex Tam, the undersecretary, right?
No, secretary.
The secretary.
Okay.
Secretary. He was one of the person that understand this is something real and we can do something. So it was also, I think the time when he was the secretary, he created, kind of combined the foundation together. So we have a mechanism that later supporting the association or company in Macau. And we started that before the pandemic. But because of the pandemic, the government, you know the budget issue. But also, I think the other the other sign was kind of hurting was that we did not do it skillful enough, because it was very hard to negotiate with the public or to convince the public to understand what's cultural industry, and they understand why we need to support cultural industry. You can see still there are a lot of comments or on the internet, social media, they criticizing the government to support cultural industries. There are a lot, especially in the Chinese world. And
but
so,
the issue, but the key here is to regard this as an investment that can create value over time, and that
yes,
is part of the economy and of the economic
yeah, but
development.
over the
right?
time, you need to keep convincing people. So you need to find, okay, when there is a kind of good product, you need to promote it more. Okay, but then I think that sometimes government might be afraid because they want to balance, right? So when there's one product will come, when company is successful, they don't want to promote that one, they don't want to mention it anymore, and then they support anyone because other people are criticizing. And so then we never have one brand that coming out from that policy and making everyone believe, okay, this is what we want to do, this is going to be successful. We don't have that. So after investing 20 years, okay, those that are successful, they're successful by their own way, in their own way, right? But the government still cannot really present that, okay, this is the product, we're so proud of it. Okay, we have this cultural industry policy, but then we are very proud of this one, and we support this young director, and he or she becomes something, okay? We don't really have that kind of pride yet. And I think that we did not, the strategy was wrong in a way. We did it, I think we picked it up slowly, in the right way, more people trust it, but at the same time, we did not, at least there's one thing we didn't do, is to keep convincing the public, especially the majority that never go to the theater, never read a book. Never listen to music.
Yeah.
And how can you make those people understand that, okay, the investment to cultural industry would at least make their kids having another kind of career. So this message needs to be very clear, or else we don't have the majority supporting the cultural industry. And so what we are now is that, yeah, the government knew that there's a program, and we have not a majority, but we have enough kind of quantity. Okay, we have enough people working in the industry. So the government also have some kind of pressure that if they stop all kind of investment or support, they knew that it's not going to, make them look good. So they know that they need to keep going. But if we want to have the next step, okay, we need to know that you cannot just make those people have enough to just survive. You need to make people really feel that they can survive by doing that cultural industry. But at the same time, it is going to be a career that can make them.
Please, Alice.
This stems totally
Yeah.
from the lack
Yeah.
of cultural policy.
Yeah.
When we plan something, when we want to do something, we need a plan.
Yeah.
And we don't have a plan. We just talk about, okay, cultural industry, and all these years we try to do things, and we think that we would have that brand coming out. We would have that thing that we kind of imagine, but we never planned to make it. There was no practical, very clear orientation. Like, for example, when we talk about this, education is very important when you talk about how to convince these people. So education, we need planning. Education is not 1 year, 2 year, but over the years. And then what kind of budget are we putting into the education? And then also cultural policy, for example, Macau, we have these heritages. How are we going to use them? How are we going to make it sustainable and to make something? It's a very abstract ideas. That's how they do it in Europe. When they come to a meeting to talk about cultural industry or cultural policy, they talk about abstract things. And then these abstract ideas, okay, Macau, cultural heritage, our cultural identity, all these things quite abstract on the table. And then how do we do this to plan this abstract things into practical policies? And we don't see Macau government doing that. And this is, okay, we have the committees, but there is no master plan kind of, okay, what is the main thing? What is the flag? We just know cultural industry, but no substance of it. And they look for the quantitative rather than qualitative. Okay, we need to make these things, how much money we spend, and how many activities we have done. They are quite happy with this kind of numbers because they don't know how to qualify them. So they quantify them. You know, we did this, you know, these are the numbers, but we don't have really substantial discussions on how are we going to really make it. What are the qualities? What are the criteria of these qualities? It's quite absent in all these years when we are trying to apply for the funding and wait for the results. Quite lack of criteria. How much money you give me to do this? How did you make this decision? We don't know. So it's really counting, okay, you are giving 5 projects this year. With these 5 projects, how many audience? And, you know, so, but culture is not quantitative, it's qualitative.
Quantity versus quality, Carlos. We have committees, do we have strong enough commitment? And how about the way forward? What's your take on the matters raised here?
There were so many questions raised by 3 fantastic speakers. There's no time to comment. But
you may single out, something,
the main point is education. Lifestyle, for instance, how can you used to say that in some poor countries, how somebody who is starving to death deal every day with some rice or a soup, how he is going to read about Nelson Mandela tough in prison. He first wants to solve his problem of stomach, correct? In a prosperous society like Macau, you don't have this problem. But people are so practical, and in a bad way, I have to be critic. People like mahjong, okay? People like several things. This is good to entertain, but not only. As somebody mentioned, you, I think, go to a concert, don't read a book, and so on. So to make it easier is not this situation, lifestyles, okay? Now everybody use the word lifestyle, just to facilitate our understanding. If people has these habits of going to an exhibition, to listen to a concert, to update, reading not only the paper, not only Gaza problem or the missile of Mr. Putin, but read about literature or critique of art, nothing can happen, because cultural and creative industries, not through Wikipedia, but through UNESCO. UNESCO and United Nations, the definition, they are almost the same, cultural industries, but they make the definition just for funding reason, to respond the law, the regulation requirement. So this is very important, education. And everything starts at home, so since very young. So somebody mentioned also the kids, they are different. You see young people, they like to, a simple example, why in the, after the World War II, mainly the American editors, publishers, and then European, they start asking Matias, Picasso, famous artists, to make illustration for books, and they make special etching, not offset. There was no offset, you see. So, and people, why people buy not a poster, which is an offset, they buy an etching, uma gravura, uma água forte, or a silk screen serigrafia. Why? Because it is original art and signed by the artist. It's not a canvas, it's not the oil painting, it's too expensive. So this idea of doing this kind of things start in the 40s, and people like to have a famous or a good etching at home, and it costs less because you have 300 copies, but 300 signed by hand by the artist. So this little thing start the idea of creative industry, move to upper level like authorship records in a time of crisis because of piracy, of downloading. So now the musicians are all on road, shows on road, because they don't sell, okay? So this must be re-equation. So this is big industry. I don't like the word industry, but I accept it in these terms. And just to finish, education, economy, you have system. You can have systematic approach. You can design structures. You can design organigrams, fluxogram, definition. But for culture as enlightenment, ilustração do espírito, right? Yeah. Enlightenment as a way to think, to create, there is no system. There are attempts from the Greek to the Nazis. Nobody reached a way, a formula to do a system for culture, hopefully. So in this sense, I think culture, art, philosophy, poetry, thinking, literature is a way of freedom and life. There's no system for that. Industry, cultural industry, okay. They are approach that are objective and solve problems of economy and so on. And why not also, which is important, to make a more inclusive society? Because if we remember what the rappers, some ghettos in the United States and all around the world, they start with urban, what was called then, or afterwards, culture, urban culture, and so on. They were integrated through this process of cultural and creative industries can be something very positive to society and bringing also some harmonious balance to human psychological ecosystem.
Carlos, a deeper dive into this discussion. Ricardo, you may want to join the conversation and follow up on some of the comments here. And I was introducing you at the onset of our conversation, talking about your role as director of Script Road Literary Festival. You're also a publisher, editor-in-chief director of a daily newspaper in Portuguese, Ponto Final, and of lifestyle and culture magazine, Macau Closer. This is to say that media is also part of this ecosystem of cultural and creative industries.
Yeah.
And do play a role.
Totally.
I believe so, yes. I think that, first of all, I think that the government, of course, it has cultural councils and so on, but I think that the government is not listening enough. It's not listening enough diverse voices in the world of cultural activities in Macau. For us, it's very difficult to reach the government when we have our points of view to represent and so on. It's really, really difficult. So I believe that if it is difficult for us, it should be for many others. And I think the government should be more open to ideas and to discuss, to find some half an hours to talk with people that are interested in doing something here in Macau in this sector. And I think that also we were talking about planning. Of course, we expect the government to have some planning or to try to do an effort on that. But I think that the situation is even worse than the lack of planning before the event started, because this year, for instance, we received news about the subsidies that we were going to have for the year in May, which means that nothing could happen before May eventually, unless you risk your own money, and then if you have no subsidy, maybe you go broke. But even starting something in June or July, when you only have the news of what you can count in terms of financial support and so on, it's really, really hard. So I think that at least these should drastically change. Otherwise, it's going to happen the same every year. What just happened now? In the last 6 months of the year, you have a number of events that are endless, all at the same time. It's very difficult to have an audience for all of these. Again, it's difficult to have technicians, artists available, all that. So I think that the government definitely has to start listening more and acting earlier, for sure. Otherwise, it's really a kind of a nightmare. And I think a little bit connected with this, I think it would be a good idea, for instance, when you are thinking about creating an event and you have to choose dates and all that, it's very difficult to understand what's going to happen at the same time in those dates. And sometimes this creates terrible situations, like, for instance, we were about to book a Fado concert at the same time as another Fado singer was arriving in the same weekend or something like that. And I believe that the government should try to create a kind of online platform or something where all the cultural operators could, even without starting to promote the events, you still don't have all the images, the media prepared stuff to promote. But once you got a date, should be there, and that could really help all the other operators to have a kind of an idea of what is already booked, what people should do in terms of planning. So I think it's a lot about planning, yes. I think media should be also helped, and media can help a lot, all these cultural events. For instance, for a concert like we had this last weekend with a marvelous Brazilian musician, a very, very interesting different show that we had. More important than having financial support from the government or something was to reach more people. And there, the government can also help by creating conditions of the media from more influence in the Chinese community, for instance, to give more space for the Portuguese-speaking country, Portuguese-speaking language events, and vice versa. So there is a lot of things that can be done, and there are ideas that we can share with the government, but we have to have the opportunity to do it.
Ricardo, and we are here, and one of the purposes of these forums and roundtables is actually to put forth some suggestions, something that can be not only in terms of the general policy, but something concrete. Alice, share with us a couple of things that could be done in the short term and could greatly improve the current situation.
Well, let's talk about what is being done now.
Okay.
With very concrete examples, and then we develop from there. For example, where I'm working, for example, at the art sector of contemporary art of in Macau, we have this art Macau Biennale. And I think for the first year in the Art Macau, they have this curatorial project. It's a kind of competition. People will curate, write ideas.
Local curatorial.
Local curatorial projects. So they submit proposals of how are we going to present our artists. And this idea of curatorial ideas are very important. We are not only talking about the product. So we're talking about the planning itself, because the curatorial is the planning. It's how are we going to take care of this. We have artists, we have artworks, and we have cultural heritage. Just now we were talking about how are we going to put them together into something concrete. Because we think about exhibition, but it doesn't have to be only exhibition. It can be performances, cinema, you know, any cultural products. So this actually from the government trying, I see the first step to cultivate this idea of curatorial, of planning. It's a very good step. And then also, we have in July, the Cultural Institute has issued a press release saying that there will be a platform from the Cultural Institute to receive projects so that they can transfer to the gaming industry, to the different companies. Yes, so I think that another very good news. I think now the mechanism has not been exactly installed yet, but at least there is this, okay, the press release is out, they are planning to do it. So we have a more practical, this policy that we are talking about can be seen as platforms like that.
So you meaning that, let's say, this direction of bringing, well, I'm again talking about the gaming concessionaires because this has been spelled out, bringing them on board and these operators playing a meaningful role. You are seeing something taking shape, right?
Because in my experience of the local curatorial project, I was one of the selected projects. And during this process, we have just the jury from the cultural sector and also from the gaming industry. And in this process, they get to understand, they get to discuss our ideas, and then they actually, being the jury, they have to qualify us. And then they actually sponsor us. The 4 selected projects were totally sponsored by the gaming industry companies. So and then when we open it, they come to see the results. So this is a very meaningful exchange. So now they see, okay, what can be done from scratch with their money. So this I see as a very good sign for us to go forward, to bring further development and further projects and discuss really concretely.
Thank you, Alice. Agnes, the involvement of the private sector, namely now we are witnessing like the situation where the gaming operators are encompassed in what is something of a de facto public-private partnership with all these tasks and requirements related to non-gaming, and culture and creative industries have been spelled out as a key area for diversification. Tell us about this in terms of this an interesting direction, and what is being done and what do you think can be accomplished. We are 10 months into the new concessions. We have a 10-year concession period. What's your comment on this?
So before I will comment about this new strategy, I want to kind of respond to other speakers' kind of speech as well. So first, I think the government have some kind of policy, cultural industry policy, at a certain level. So at least they name 6 major areas that they want to focus, like performance, design, and also kind of digital media. So they create that. And so this is kind of, you can understand that they try to create all kind of category for funding purpose, like Alex says. For funding purpose, okay, you are in this kind of area, we're going to fund you because this is the key area that we want to develop. So that's why they have to kind of frame the the long film support scheme, something like that. So to create something. And so for designer, fashion designer, you can apply for certain funding. So I think actually that part is okay. I think it's good. If they can keep going and not changing the plan all the time. And they should, once they prove that their plan is good, they should expand it. Okay, like for the film production one, if those people that they are able to get 1.4 million from the government, and then they are able to solicit funds from other people, other parties. So there are several young female film producer in Macau, director, and so they were able to get another like 5 million from somewhere else. So they were successful. Then you should start to kind of expand the program and not, so if I give you 1.4 million, you can get another 5 million, I give you less. They didn't do it, but I was thinking that then you should start to expand. Maybe then we can have some other program that we support 2 million, right? And if we can only support 10 films, but at least 2 they were able to, at least they have kind of a true screen time in Hong Kong, Taiwan, somewhere. So maybe we try to help them, to grow bigger. And I think this is one thing about their evaluation on their project. So they have the quantity already. So 10 film, 1.4 million. And so if in the past year 2 were kind of successful, but they need more help, like promotion, kind of local promotion, and make them like the pride for Macau, They need to help with that. Then people in Macau, they also kind of to, at least I'm curious. So in the very beginning, we're all kind of nationalists, right? So we love, we have that kind of identity. We want to support our own thing. So you should use that kind of spirit and help them grow. And
do you think, sorry to interrupt, do you think the Greater Bay Area can be a suitable platform for that process and make people proud? And because we have affinity, we have all these connections.
Yeah, of course, and they should do it. And also then, I think the government officials, they should become an example. If you really want to support the film, and then you go inside the theater and watch the movie, look at it. You don't just give money. I always remember, actually, I think one thing you can always do, you want to support literature, you go to the literature festival, sit there, and ask the kind of signature from the writer. Okay, they need to do that kind of example. Now we don't have that kind of example anymore, right? So it's like that the government officials and then the player, right? They are separate. They only meet on papers, right? So I submit the proposal and then you sign that, you give them money. No, there should be a lot more kind of connection. And because like when you want to go to the Greater Bay Area, you know that in a lot of cities, people also look at, is this going to be a very important show? They have that kind of, they have other mechanism to understand if they should go to somewhere else. So if the government can help with that kind of promotion, it would be good. And I know that they sponsor the 小红书, right? So
Little Red Book, yeah.
So you attract people to come to Macau, right? But you cannot control them. So now everyone going to Cunha, the Cunha,
Cunha.
to Cunha to eat the beef, right?
Cunha guy.
Yeah, Cunha guy, 食牛雜, right?
They can come here to Cunha, I mean in Rui Cunha Foundation.
Yeah, no. So we should at least, having some kind of effort. They should come to Rui Cunha Foundation and listen to. Look at the art. Look at the art exhibition. So I think that the way that we promote Macau is not diversified enough, and also we kind of lose the control of the kind of what are your kind of core message. We don't have any control of that, right? So I think that now we are entering a time that, to me, I feel like it was because of pandemic. We don't have enough money. So on one hand, the government just needs to shrink the budget. Okay, maybe we need to cut the support, right? At the same time, we so eager to attract people to come. But what should us bring to the world after the pandemic? What are we going to show them? It's like carnival. Whatever those kind of individual want to show and so we just let them do it. But we do not have enough promotion on the Macau, that performance event, kind of small event organized by the local association or kind of local player. And so I think for the events as show business, and then we need a lot of coordination, and also we need people to help with the promotion, because we should not, Alex and Ricardo, they're very busy to create the content already. And so we have somebody work on the content, then we should have another team to work on the promotion, right? So like we need to have kind of manager to do it. And so I think that's the coordination we don't really have. That's one thing. And the second thing is that I think for the cultural industry, there should be different layer, different type. And for each cultural industry, we need different support. And then you will come with the major picture. Gareth mentioned British earlier, UK earlier. So I remember that they have one, when they start to do the cultural industry, creative industry at that time they call it. They have one, the first program was kind of, I don't know if you find it stupid, but it was very useful. They make all of the, we can call company or factory, okay, they need to invest on packaging. So they call packaging policy. So if you are going to hire one designer to help doing the kind of beautifying your packaging, you get some subsidy. And so then all those creative firms, design firms, they were lively. So they got some funding, and then the business, they later, because they did that to convince the production line, okay, manager, to understand that once you have a better experience of your kind of better packaging of your product, actually you sell it better, you sell them better, you sell better price. Then once they understand, after certain years, the government can withdraw themselves from giving that money, because then the business owner, they understand the value already, so they will invest to do the design. So now we don't really have that kind of planning or policy. So for this policy, for this industry, we want to invest for 10 years. Then we convince the business player to understand the importance of the design, right? And then for the show business, we support the player, the curator, and at the time, and also we need to have another scheme to help them to do the coordination and promotion. I think we are not specific enough now. So we need to evaluate that.
Thank you, Agnes. So we have content, right? Surely we can have more, but we already plenty. We have a certain sizable critical mass.
Yeah.
But how about packaging, branding, and promotion? This is the challenge and the way forward. I'd like to invite those joining us here to join the conversation. If you have any questions, any remarks to ask our panel, anything that you'd like to contribute. Maybe someone would like to be the first one. I got the prerogative of being the moderator. I'm skipping that. We got someone. So, do we? Well, I'll be now asking the following to the panel. We are just weeks away from the policy address. It's high time for putting forth some suggestions for government policy in 2024. Carlos, I believe that you might have perhaps the chance of yourself putting forth some suggestions. What would you like to share with us? Something concrete that you would like to see in the policy address, if you want to share something.
Very briefly, I would like the government to rapidly design and move up the mood of people after the pandemic, to open again and tell the world, we are here. And we start with the Greater Bay Area. If we can affirm ourselves in the Greater Bay Area, is a fantastic start, you know. Over 70 million inhabitants with very wonderful GDP, you know. So if we can start and do something in the creative area, in the Greater Bay Area will be something fantastic. And the government work out whatever it is suitable to say, we are here, Macau, the pandemic is gone, okay? That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos, Alice. We're here, we've been here, we're here to stay, right?
Yes.
But not only stay, to do something meaningful, right?
Yes, I'm of course, as a curator, I'm very concerned with the contents. Agnes has mentioned, I think, for the Greater Bay Area as well, the Greater Bay Area is an abstract, quite abstract idea of an area, but the contents, what we are, what is Macau offering? We need to think in terms, I think, in terms of what are we going to offer to this big policy that is national strategy, actually. I think in terms of Macau, people, we need to really also to start thinking that we have something to offer. We have our own history, our cultural identity, and we need to organize these contents into something that is presentable, that is ready-made, where we go to Hong Kong or wherever, we can say that Macau is all these things, and we need curators to do that. So I'm working on that.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Michael
Ricardo,
curators.
if I were the chief executive and I would be taking note of your suggestions, what would you tell me? The first thing, top of your list, for the coming policy days.
What a question. I think that
You can say more than one.
if you look at Cotai, you will find 5 big arenas. I think it's the place in the world with the larger capacity for events. It's 50,000 seats only in the arenas, plus all the theaters. Not even Los Angeles with 2 NBA teams have such a density of show installment seats and all that. So I think that has to be considered. I think that the government should have a more aggressive kind of planning for events. I think the casinos can do it, but I think it would not be enough. I think for a long time, the Macau government should have, for instance, bid for an international sports event, multi-sports event in Macau, like Asian Games, East Asian Games, eventually creating a sort of multi-sports event with the Greater Bay Area cities and all that. I think all those complexes, they
GBA Games, for instance.
Yes, they need to be, you know, live. They have to have spectators, and you have, other than the arenas in the Cotai, you have all those that were created in the stadiums for the East Asian Games back in 2005, and they are really not used that much all these years. So definitely in that area, there is a lot to be done. In my opinion, I've been hearing for many years that it is important to expand the Grand Prix Museum, for instance, and the Wine Museum and so on. For me, the most important thing is the area of the Inner Harbor, which is so strong in terms of connection with Macau's history and traditions and so on. There is definitely a lot to be done as well there. I think the Maritime Museum, it's a very, very beautiful museum, but clearly outdated, should have been expanded for a long time already. It should be a place that would be inviting researchers, visitors, of course, and the researchers from all over the world, because Macau was, in its history, such an important trading place and cultural trading herb city that the tradition should be recovered. And I think there is a lot of things that can be created, ideas to make that area a really meeting point for people from all over the world. I think that's what I would say. Are you the chief executive? I will select.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Thank you. We have Mary Mendoza who would like to share something with us and perhaps.
Well,
Question. Thank you.
I would
Thank you.
like to thank Carlos, Agnes, Alice, Ricardo, and José for such a wonderful and insightful sharing in terms of creativity, and as well as the topic related to the Greater Bay Area. And so we've heard a lot about the superficial level of Greater Bay Area, and as well as pointed by Ms. Agnes Lam and Alice Kwok, that it's important to put Macau on top of the game in terms of Greater Bay Area, and totally agree on that. So, and we also know that in accordance to the mainland government, that there are also predefined activities per the Greater Bay, such as Macau as the world tourism and entertainment hub within the Greater Bay, whereas Hong Kong is really more in the financial sector and technology, and well, Shenzhen also technology, and other areas in the other 9 municipalities. And so now my question is, who is in fact overlooking at the entire 3 jurisdiction, mainly let's say Macau, Hong Kong, and the Guangdong province, in order to put this on track? Because it's so important planning ahead and to execute what was mandated by the Beijing authorities, right? And I heard a lot in terms of planning, totally agree as well. I'm a big planner myself. I believe that we need to have a roadmap, we need to see where we're heading, and we probably would have to tweak along the way. But in terms of overseeing this particular Greater Bay Area, who is, can you walk us through in who is handling this, and how do we navigate this particular approach?
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose.
Agnes?
So,
Maybe you would
okay,
like to say something here.
I try to, if I can try to answer the question in this way. We all know that the GBA is kind of plans to kind of put people together, and I've been kind of attending a lot of forums like this in mainland China actually. Everyone is talking about how can we work together on culture, education, everything. And so I think now we are at the point that everyone believes that we should be integrated in a way to become bigger. Okay, so it's kind of bigger. So Macau need a bigger platform, and then maybe other cities, they also need another platform. And also I find that actually in mainland China, most of the scholars, they want to kind of learn more from Macau and Hong Kong to see how they connected to the rest of the world. And so they want to become more open. They want to learn the regulation that we're having, because in their mind, they feel that we are more lively, active, but they have some other regulations. So that's the way. But here in Macau, I think sometimes we also try to learn from mainland China, right? So we learn from each other. And I think that in terms of cultural industry, we have not reached a point that we understand each city of this kind of 11 cities. We have not reached a point that we understand how we can have the kind of what is the effect cost. So 1 + 1 is bigger than 2. We still don't know yet. So for example, Hangqin doing very well in tourism in the past few months. So in Macau, we kind of just in the past week, the Golden Week, October Golden Week, we attract 19% tourists than last year. But Hangqin attract 35% more. They were doing better than us. But here we didn't know. And we were not able to bring those people that went to Changlong to come to Macau. So after they play those kind of, watch that show, the animal show, right? And so there's no ad, or there's no policy to tell those people, okay, once you stay there, watch the animal, maybe we'll come to Macau for hiking. And then you can look at that hotel or that park for Macau. Or once you come to here, and in Macau we have some very exotic Brazilian music, So there's no coordination again. So I think
They can see the skyline, certainly,
So-
but
they have more people than us, and then but here we're very exciting. We're like, oh, we do so great, so many people coming. But actually, other cities are also doing great. We need to monitor. We need to understand. We need to look at that and try to bring those people coming over. So if we have more people going to Hangqi, they were doing very good advertisement. You know, 小红书 as well in whole China, right? And so even Guizhou is one of the city. Actually, I did some, I did Huizhou.
Yeah.
So our
it's
colleague.
in the east side of the east end of the Greater Bay Area.
So it was kind of I think the poorer part of GBA, but actually they did very well in kind of health and the city construction, and so now their kind of living standard, according to some kind of mechanism, some kind of mathematics, my colleague did, the economic colleagues they did, and so actually their humanity level, we call it humanity level, is quite high, and so more younger generation, they would like to go to that, just to do business and live there because the living quality is better. So, but we, so how are we going to bring those people coming to Macau? Also, they are kind of young, middle class that they just
More sophisticated,
yeah,
perhaps?
more sophisticated, just to walk around. Okay, we need to be able to bring those people, and so we don't understand other cities enough, and sometimes we don't understand ourselves enough.
Yeah.
We don't know if those people going to Changlong, they might be, if they want to watch the animal game with the kids, they might want to come to Macau to, I don't know, hiking, Haksa, for the live music show there also, right?
Yeah.
So, and then we should kind of really, we need to coordinate not only with the player in Macau and the government, but also with the regional government, and then regional other players, like Changlong, we work with them.
But Hangqin is a co-management area. It is supposed to be a jointly managed by both
So
sides,
I think,
right?
but this kind of that we want, or the local player, we want coordination. So I think this has to be out. So I think that I don't know how you're going to write the story, but I think also kind of listen to every speaker here. I think we need more communication, right? So one thing, communication, so our voice are not heard, or your voice are not heard, and some other voice are not heard. So there should be more forums, right?
More communication?
More communication. Coordination.
Coordination, 2 C's?
2 C's. And so as a teacher, I want to create all kind of formula. So we need a first C that is continue to support the cultural industry. Don't stop it somewhere because you want to develop something new, or like we train people to become the technician for the stage lighting. You don't cut it suddenly, and then when the person change their kind of career, they're not going to come back. Okay, the government actually, I don't want to criticize them too much because they did invest a lot in some area. So they have scholarship provide for the local young kids. They can study drama, okay, lighting, all kind of related. Some of the discipline related to the cultural industry. For some years, I don't know if they still have that plan, but they did it for some years. That's why we have one cohort, right? One generation, they were trained somewhere in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Portugal, and they were trained in the related business, like art curator, art management. Okay, we have some people, but a lot of people, they lose their job or they could not survive during the pandemic.
Because the ecology,
Please go ahead.
you
The
mentioned
ecology, right?
several times, the ecology of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think actually it depends a lot on the scholars who would do the studies, because according to answer your question, I think the studies are very important. Scholars, they would check, they would find the findings. That is when we talk about really the qualitative and the quantitative, right? And then, of course, the officials, they wouldn't just listen to anyone. We need these very elaborate studies by the scholars to show them these are the findings. that we have studied on for years, and which can be useful in the planning and the policy making of the Greater Bay Area in general, I think.
Thank you. We will now have to move on to the conclusion of this roundtable. Certainly, there's a lot of topics that can be further developed, and we will have more talks. So, in a nutshell, a key idea, a key message, I would start with Ricardo. Main takeaway or key message in 1 to 2 minutes that you'd like to share with us.
I think that what is lacking more is communication. I think there should be more channels of communication between the government and the private sector and the artists, art world. Even inside the Greater Bay Area, I think that there should be more easily identifiable where to go to when you have some project that can be widely used in more than one city. For instance, we had here artists, we had writers. We tried to have them performing or just attending events in Hong Kong, in Zhuhai, and in Guangzhou. It was still not possible. I hope that in the future we can do it. But for that, I think there are some structures that have to be prepared to listen to these ideas and to make them happen. So communication, I think it's very important. And then also believing more in the people, in the private sector and so on. We've been talking about the gambling operators to have been pushed by the government to support more the cultural sector. But we almost forget to add that, first of all, this new contract, it's only 10 years. The revenues are not as big as they used to be, so these are two constraints for the operators. And at the same time, the government is also creating projects, very ambitious projects of requalification of some areas of the city where the gambling operators are involved. And of course, I don't expect that these companies, will just spreading money around all the time and endless. So if they are already working a lot with the government in these specific projects, we can expect for us, for the private sector, for the associations and so on, to be more difficult to be supported. So I think there is some reason for optimism in terms of the new era that is starting now, and thank God that the pandemic years are over, but I think there is a lot of challenges ahead as well.
Thank you, Ricardo. Alice, your conclusion?
I agree totally with Ricardo.
Yes.
About communication and about this being a very exciting yet still very challenging moment where we can go forward. And I think now it's almost like, we need to be very daring. And we have been trying for the past 20 years, and now it's really time for us to learn from the past. Being passive is not good enough. We really need to be very proactive to propose things, and I think the government is pushing us with the casinos and everything. So let's try to make it happen.
We need to be creative and CreActive, right? That is the idea of the talk. CreActivity. Agnes, communication, coordination, continuation, I would say. Cunha, Rui Cunha Foundation, it's the surname. Now the C.
Okay.
Any final C for a conclusion for this talk?
Okay, conclusion is that I think every business, every industry, they are different. So we need to be specific, get the people that understand how culture industry should be supported, should be run, should be promoted, and to do the right job. So I think listening to people is very, very important. Having the casino to support, that might be good in some way, but they need to understand how to make the industry have the hope or on the path to be independent, you know, that should be the key. Okay, so there should be some strategic. You don't, when we water the plant, we don't water them until they die, right?
It has
so
to be sustainable.
Yes.
You're talking about something that is
yes.
key, right? The
Yeah,
sustainability.
I think this needs to be addressed. And so what should be the wide strategy for the small, little cultural industry to grow as a wide, but then healthily? I think that should be, the key. Or what you say, sustainability.
Thank you. Carlos, how to make this precious lotus flower of creative and cultural industries of Macau to blossom and to shine high? I mean, what's your final take, your final word on this discussion? Thank you.
If I have an answer for this specific question, I will not be here. I will be hired by all casinos, paying me millions to be their consultant.
But it's, so we are really thankful that you're here with us, sharing your views. And,
Watering more.
Watering more, yes.
Watering more this lotus. Macau is Linfate, the place of the lotus. And lotus grow up in the mud of the sin. And Macau is a sin city as well, but an angelic sin city with so many sweet angels, you know. Maybe more than Bangkok. Bangkok means city of angels, right? But it is the city of sins also, because the angel walk around.
And also can be a faith, right? Agnes was talking about Santa Fe, Saint Faith, right?
Yeah.
Santa Fe,
So,
But Santa Fe is too far away. It's a
does
desert.
it take a
Macau,
leap of
it is
faith,
in
or we can accomplish it?
I think we can, now sincerely, and to be very telegraphic. We have to find trust in ourselves. Macau has a big problem always. We like to compare with Hong Kong, and we or are very radical, say we are the best, or then we are the worst. No, come on. Find a balanced way. But government of Macau must invest, and this is basic and fundamental, in the civic education. How can you talk about increasing development in a fantastic way, the city's cultural industries, if in so many schools in Macau there is no artistic education, isn't it?
No.
There is no still school, middle school, that artistic education purely doesn't exist. You know, from decades, only the Portuguese school, official school, has artistic discipline.
Actually, we have, but
you now have some secondary school with some approach and so on. But in general, it's still very, very confined to.
But usually they stop it. I
science.
think the time we have it in primary school, but for the secondary school, in a lot of schools, they only offer the art kind of education.
Some music and visual education.
At the kind of elementary level, maybe
Yes.
Form 1, Form 2, they have that. On Form 3, people start to be busy with all kinds of examination.
Yes.
So they cut it. So usually from Form 3 to Form 6, quite a number of schools, they don't provide that. But primary and, and...
So you agree with me?
Yeah.
There is following up to be done, and everything begins when they are kids. So I'm being a little bit maybe skeptical, but it's not. We should start. Education is very important, and also civic education to make us proud of what we have been doing here together in a multicultural society, open to the world as ever since 500 years, you know. And think about, I also already suggest officially, we have to do something, and this is just to finish, a museum based in the personality of Dr. Sun Yat-sen. Sun Yat-sen is a pretest to link Macau to the world. Because if you study Macau, really people with international impact, you don't have so much. But then you can say you have Camões, but we are in China. Camões can be, but it's not the first one. You have Charchinery, okay? You have Vũ Li, okay? Vũ Li, and who?
Matthew Ricci.
Matteo Ricci, so long, so far away, Italian. You know, if you go to Praga, in the last 10 years, maybe 12 years, they find Kafka as the example of their symbol of the city. Kafka everywhere. Like Lisboa tried to find Fernando Pessoa, you see? Macau, you don't have Camilo Peçanha, but he's Portuguese, you know? But Sun Yat-sen, he's a brilliant guy, the first Chinese.
So that would be a suggestion for the
No, I did
press
already by written.
Yes.
Okay, several times.
Yes.
But this is why I say that. The message of our embracing the world, okay, it must be a Chinese. 你先冇 study， 唔好講咁多，嘥咁多口水。You don't think about the Portuguese or the British. Must be a Chinese. And the Chinese recognize internationally. And through him, you connect. Because I can tell you now, and I'm going to be a little not so politically correct to Hong Kong, which is a city I love, okay? Did you visit what they dedicate to Sun Yat-sen? The museum, very little. Another example, Bruce Lee. Did you visit Bruce Lee Museum? It's an horror museum. They deserve much better. And we, if we don't take the opportunity to show how Sun Yat-sen was important to Macau, and Macau for himself, both Chinese, Portuguese, and other nationalities.
So that kind of
Hong Kong did it. We have to do it in a huge museum, maybe in Zone A, okay, with the contribution of everybody, discussion, openness, and communication.
Thank you, Carlos.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. And with this, we wrap up our roundtable. Thank you very much, distinguished panel of guest speakers, Carlos Marreiros, Agnes Lam, ALBcreativeLAB, Ricardo Pinto. Thank you all for joining us, for staying with us. Until now, it is, as we normally say, there's always plenty of food for thought, and certainly we are. A meal is in order right now. So thank you very much. Thank you, Rui Cunha Foundation, for the continuous and precious support for this series of talks. We will be back next month with another talk. Thank you very, very much, and have a good evening. See you next time.